Well, won't you look at that? We're in River Eisen once again. We're doing another 1 versus 1 cast, because that's the only type of cast that I'm doing. And yeah, let's just get straight into it. So on the left-hand side of the map, we've got the player PrOTuS7. And he's playing for the faction Isengard, and going for fast clan steading. So 1 resource structure, in this case a furnace, and immediately after that a clan steading, and afterwards going for the 2nd furnace. On the other hand, on the right hand side of the map, we've got myself, and I'm playing for Mordor. And I'm doing exactly the same, actually. I put down a slaughterhouse and went for a fast orc barracks. Righty, so he's going for the pikeman, which means that he's going to creep, because it wouldn't make any sense to just send those guys to attack. He's going to creep, probably build another, Wildman of Downland battalion, and send a group of harass group, essentially, which consists of 1 pikeman battalion and 1 I guess we could call them swordsmen, although I don't think they're wielding swords. Anyway, so I immediately go for the 2nd orc barracks on 2 furnaces, and parallel to that, I'm also going for the 3rd slaughterhouse. And for Mordor, I feel like it's very, very important to keep your opponent in his base in the early game. Even if you don't get, many of his resource structures, that's not the point. Just having him busy with fending off your attacks is what you're aiming for the Mordor early game. At least that's how I'm used to playing against some other mods, particularly in 2.2. And so that's kind of been my strategy for Mordor in Age of the Ring as well. And so far it's worked. It's mostly worked, I'll put it that way. Sometimes it hasn't, but it has mostly worked. So so this is just 1 battalion of orcs, and these orcs cost just 75. So it's not very likely that they're going to take down the furnace, because these downland guys who are wielding axes, I think. Axes, yeah. Very interesting weapons. Are much stronger than them, and so they can take them down pretty quickly. This pikeman battalion is coming over to my base. I'm assuming that's, his thinking similarly. He's thinking like if he stays on defense all the time, that's going to be bad for him. So he just, sends forward a random battalion. Obviously this half-dead pikeman battalion isn't going to achieve much in terms of taking down my resource structures, but it's gonna, just direct my attention. I'm gonna dedicate at least 1 battalion to defending that attack. So yeah, I feel like we have basically the same logic behind those actions there. Okay, so I'm starting my spam production. I've got my 4 orc barracks set up. I'm also trying to defend my furnaces with them, so I'm building them in a way that would make it a lot harder for these for the Doomland units to harass them, to get a good clump on them is what I mean. And yeah, at this point I'm attacking from 2 sides. Once again, this is just a phase of the game where I'm trying to keep the opponent in his base so that I can set up my economy, right? So since Mordor is kind of, I don't want to say it's weak in early game, but it's very susceptible to rush because it has these very weak early units. So if you don't go for, archer units, then it's very, very hard to fend off your opponent's rush, especially if your opponent is playing Isengard, because these wildmen have very, very good damage against buildings. And we also see that PrOTuS has gone for the 2nd clan setting, has already upgraded the 2nd clan setting, so he plans to spam, or build. I don't know if he plans to if he plans to completely spam them. By the way, XT, I lost my builder over here. Miscontrol. I actually noticed it. He started hitting my builder over here, and I sent him over here, but then I forgot about him. So that's a bit of a miscontrol here by myself. So pretty big mistake, because at this point of the game, what you want to do as Mordor is absolutely spam the hell out of your orc, your slaughterhouses, because you know, Isengard, Mordor, you know, these are the type of factions that win games thanks to their economy. So that's what you'd like to do. Okay, so as I said, he's gone for the X-Throwers, and he's also going for Pikemen. I'm assuming he's expecting the Nazgul sometime, you know, sometime soon for me. But as we can see, he's also gone for Work Pit, which is a decent decision, I would say, because as you can see, I'm just building basic orcs, no pikemen whatsoever. And so in order to kind of force me to build pikes, which would obviously make my army a bit less capable of taking down resource structures, he's gone for the Work Riders. Although the thing is that these work riders, they cost just 475, sorry, and so they're not super good. And besides that, I have a bunch of orcs here, and I also use my first tier ability. Talking about which, I'll let you know which player has gone for which ability in a second. So these guys have a debuff, 25 damage in armor, and so these work riders aren't going to be effective at all against such a huge, you know, clump of orcs. Although they're kind of thinning out at the moment because he has dedicated some wildmen to take them down. I think I get a builder kill over here as well. The builder is kind of stuck. So yeah, I think the Warg battalion died there actually. Yeah, not super effective. I think he could have waited until he got like 2, and his trampling would have been much better. Or alternatively, you can just try to trample kind of on the edge of a clump so that your cavalry units don't get stuck in the middle. That's a technique that you can use to avoid getting eaten by, you know, a swarm of orcs essentially. Okay, so at this point I'm satisfied with my basically diverting action, so to speak, you know, diverting his attention. So I feel pretty confident in my economy, 700, you know, CP limit, and so I start creeping, which will give me additional money. And I, once again, just literally, these guys aren't doing anything. They're just running around in his base. I'm not even planning to attack his resource. I'm just running around in his base so that the attention of 2 battalions is on just 1 half-dead battalion of orcs. At the same time, PrOTUS is pushing out of his base pretty successfully at this point. He was trying to get this very important slaughterhouse over this side. Because why is it important? Because obviously I put it in the beginning of the game, and so it has had the most time to level up, and it's already level 2, as is this one. On the other hand, he does get a slaughterhouse over here, and I'm pretty sure he's going to get the barracks as well. He used his war chant, and he already has his tier 2 ability. So okay, back to you know, the PowerPoint. Actually, let me check if I'm recording. Okay, that's good. We're good. Back to PowerPoint. So he went for the war chant, and as his tier 2 went for Tainted Land, which is, in this mod, any type of terrain is very, very useful because it has a very unusually long you know, time in which it stays. For example, I'm not like in 202 it doesn't stay nearly as long. I'm not used to like land, you know, terrain effects staying that long. So especially for Isengard, very useful ability. It also gives you, you know, besides the stats, damage and armor, it also gives you Marauder ship or pillage. Yeah, basically pillage. That's what it's called, I guess. They earn resources for kills. Basically, yeah, pillage. So I go for 2 Nazgul simultaneously. I'm not sure if this was the best idea. I guess 1 would do, and as the second one, I could have gone for the Mouth of Sauron, I suppose, but I don't even know why. I guess I did it just mindlessly. I was cash floating a bit, had a lot of money, so I just went for both Nazguls. But since I got them later in the game, I used them kind of on 2 flanks. I had like 2 groups of troops, each with a Nazgul, one over here, but let's not get ahead of ourselves yet. And back to talking about PowerPoint. So since my strategy was just distracting him, I did it kind of willingly. I knew that I was granting him lots and lots of PowerPoints. By the way, oof, this was so close. I noticed this like literally on the last moment. and I had both Nazgul's hotkeyed on number 4, and I immediately pressed 4 and S, which is how you stop your cavalry units or heroes from going further, so they just stop where they are, and then you can carefully turn them back so that they don't run on pikes. Righty, so God, I can't finish my chain of thought. So basically what I was trying to say is that I was perfectly happy in giving him the PowerPoint advantage, but, you know, buying myself time to set up my eco. And at this time, I'm very, very satisfied with my eco, you know. To compare, I have 850 with 200 active army. I don't have much of an army. I stopped spamming for some reason. I should have spammed a bit more at this point. But on the other hand, his eco is pretty decent too, and he also has more army on the field. So he just pushes on the middle, and I pull back my troops to defend this attack. He notices that this slaughterhouse is buffed by the tier 2 Slaves of Nirn, which, you know, adds 275% production to it, which is, you know, very, very important for Mordor, getting that eco boost. So he tries to take it down. So I get my entire army to defend it because it's so important. And this one was already level 3, so it's like extra important to save this and not let it take them down. And I do it just you know, by a thin margin. I'm able to, you know, save it. And this was super important. Like, this might not seem like a big deal. Okay, like you lost a you know, slaughterhouse, big deal. But it actually is. It's very important. So as you can see, it gives you, like, we'll see on the next tick how much resources it gives you. 86. That's huge. It functions essentially as kind of like 3.5 farms, which are put on 100%. So so once again over here, I was you know, caught off guard. Just ran into pikes, but thankfully Mouth of Sauron is much more tankier than the Nazguls. This is what I was talking about earlier. I divided my army into 2 groups. One is gonna attack on the, you know, on this ford, and the other is gonna attack over here. And I'm also gonna have a couple of battalions to be sent in the, you know, from the middle side. Yeah, so Mouth of Sauron is much more tankier than the Nazgul, so he was able to survive that, but Nazguls wouldn't have survived that. Okay, so his entire army is in the middle at this point, and he's pulling back to defend the attack from this side, I'm assuming. But that gives me a chance to harass him from the top side. So yeah, a bit of a, you know, macro gameplay at this point, and he doesn't really have enough troops to, well, I guess he does have enough troops to defend this actually if he was to split his army, but he's not doing that. He's just pushing me over here and uses his tainted land once again. And the moment I see tainted land, I immediately just retreat, because it obviously does not make any sense to fight on unfavorable terms for yourself. So I retreat from this side, but at the same time push from the middle and push from the top side. That's basically the entire game plan. Attack from 3 sides. If he does not divide his army and he tries to defend me, you know, just one side, then attack from the other 2 sides. Then if he goes to defend one of the other sides, pull back that clump, as I'm doing right now. I'm pulling back these guys, attacking from this side and also attacking from this side. And these guys are going to just be pulled back so that his attention is concentrated here. And he's slightly slow in going back to defend his base. But yeah, overall, this is the first time I was playing with PrOTuS. Pretty decent player, I gotta say. You know, it was definitely not easy playing against him. So yeah, that's that. He built another battalion of worker riders. I'm trying to get his armory, because for Isengard, obviously, if he manages to get to that Isengard late game and get upgrades on his orcs, then that's gonna be incredibly hard for me to deal with. So I feed him a lot of units, like a lot of units. We'll look at his PowerPoints in a second, but I do that willingly once again. And I thought I took down this furnace, but I didn't, so I kind of went back. And I'm gonna use Screech here, if I remember well, so that my heroes can get away. Yeah, I do use Screech, mount the heroes, and these guys get away. At the same time, engagement in the center. My army is weaker over here, obviously, and once again, I know that, but I'm just buying time so that these guys could get away and also these guys could get away. Okay, so in terms of power points, if I switch to the Isengard, view, it's gonna look pretty darn bad. So at this point, I myself have, tier 2 plus 6 points, and on the other hand, Isengard literally has tier 3. So he's got, like, if we take into account this 1 point as well, he's 10 power points ahead of me, which is a very, very big deficit. But if we look at map control and if we look at the economy, I've got 1000, CP, and I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, lumber mills. So my economy is very, very well set up, and I'm gonna use Slaves of Nirn once again fairly soon. But at the same time, I didn't have that many troops on the map, which is also not an issue because I have 5 orc barracks, a troll cage, and I'm also well, at this point I hadn't yet. I also set up a few barracks on the top side soon. Okay, so he uses his Freezing Rain, which is obviously very, very powerful because it nullifies enemy leadership and also, debuffs you by 25 damage and 25 armor. So he has a huge stat advantage here. His units are buffed. Mine do not have either leadership nor anything else. I don't even have buffs because I haven't gone for the tier 1 buff of Mordor. The leadership of the drummer troll is not working because it gets nullified. So he has like overstats over here. He has overstats here over me. So, but I have more troops. I have more, troop production potential as well because I have all these barracks, and some of them are level 2, I think. So I'm very, very quick to spam an army at this point, and he is not building. Well, he's trying to grade this and build some additional units, but he isn't building the cheaper units at that point. Wolfgar is level 3 already. He used his Dark Wings, Dark Wars, which summons 2 birdies, essentially. So PrOTUS uses Tainted Land once again over here, and I just pack my stuff and get away, just blast off back to my base instantly because that's just insane. I don't have any leadership. I'm debuffed. He has leadership. He's buffed by both Wolfgar and also the Tainted Land. I'm pretty sure they stack. It should stack because buffs and leaderships stack. So, yeah. Right. So if we look at the map right now, we would assume that the white colored player. Damn, this is gonna sound very bad to Americans. I'm from Europe, so we don't have those issues. But anyway, let's not get off topic over here. Yeah, so it might have seemed like the Isengard player has the advantage here, but I wouldn't actually say so because I've already got I'm not sure what it's called, pardon me, but basically the Morgul upgrade, after which your fortress becomes green and you can build Gothmog, you can build Olog-High Trolls, and it also unlocks Legions of Morgul. It also unlocks access to the last upgrade on the fortress, which itself unlocks the Morgul Vanguard, which is a super, super useful unit. Okay, so I'm trying to harass from this side. I built a barracks over this side of the map, and I'm also expanding my lumber mills because obviously lumber mills, and I use the Mouth of Sauron's leadership canceling ability. Obviously, lumber mills in Age of the Ring take up command points. Well, not lumber mills specifically, but these guys, the workers on the mills, rather, take 4 command points. But it's alright, as Mordor, even if you sacrifice like 200 command points to your lumber mills, that's totally fine. You can build an army on 800 command points that can absolutely wreck anything, really. Okay, so I sent one Nazgul over here with a couple of battalions to creep the troll, which it did successfully. So now I have access to the inn, and I'm planning to harass his topside economy, you know, his economy, which is on the top side, with this Nazgul and a few battalions of Corsairs of Umbar. So yeah, a bit of a reset over on the map. He has upgraded his Doomlanding Longhouse level 2, and he has access to the Longbowmen. And obviously under Wulfgar's leadership, they're gonna hit really hard. And he's also back to 1000 CP with a 700 active army, 7 power points, so 18 till his 25, so tier 4. That's what I meant. On the other hand, I don't even have tier 3. That's a bit bad. But at this point, I think I had just an enormous amount of resources, so I went for the Witch King as well, and soon enough I'll go for the Morgul Vanguard. And so I sent Witch King to deal with this over here, but at the same time, PrOTUS is attacking me on the southern side of the map. And my army here isn't bad, but I think, and it's also buffed by Gothmog leadership, but I think his looks much better because he's got more elite units. So Witch King basically deals with this guys over here, and I send him back so that he can participate in the fight on the southern side of the map. At the same time, I'm also pushing from the middle, you know, with the support of a Drumel Troll. This is a bit of a unit composition mistake. I didn't really need to send archers to his base for harassment. They could have been much more useful over here. But in any case, so I'm pushing from 3 sides, and the Eisen player is pushing from 1 side, but with a very decent, very powerful and capable army, and also under Wulfgar leadership. And Wulfgar also has Crow Banner right now, which he puts down and gets a temporary battalion of Huskarls, I think. Huskarls, or I don't know how to pronounce them. But yeah, obviously super good units, you know, heroic units, incredibly good. And took down his builder over here, and I'm harassing him from 3 sides, or at least trying to. The big engagement is on the southern side of the map, while a few, you know, harassment steps are happening over here. But let's look over here. He puts down a tainted land, which means probably that I'm going to retreat. Actually, no, right at that moment I had access to my tier 3 fell beasts, so I use them, you know, summon them and use Screech on one of them. And I'm saving the second one for, you know, a minute later, basically. And Witch King goes into the pack and starts, you know, wreaking havoc. Righty, so these guys, I think they took down like 1 farm, not super successful in harassment. But once again, I have a huge amount of resources at this point, and that's thanks to my tier 2 eco buff, thanks to the fact that my, you know, original slaughterhouses, the ones that I put down in the beginning of the game, are untouched. So they're level 3, which means they're giving me I'm sorry. Which means they're giving me a lot more resources. And also due to the lumber mill spam, essentially. I think at this point I had like 8 or 9 of them. The Witch King is trying to take down the furnace. I think it would have been wiser to actually hit the Axeman battalion. Wait, if this is the logo for the Axeman, then I think, well, I'm not sure what exactly Wulfgar summons. I think it's actually a Huskarl battalion and not Axeman. But anyway, so Witch King goes away over here. But yeah, I mean, the map control wise, I think I'm surely in the lead right now. And I also put down the Rune Barracks, or more specifically the Easterling encampment. And over here, I'm feeding a bit more. I think I could have retreated, which I do a bit late. I was playing off host here, so you know that kind of mistakes are kind of expected. I could be better. No excuses, but still. So Nazgul still on this side of the map, has been there for the past 10-15 minutes, and so continuing the lumber mill spam and trying to attack, just distract him in the middle so that I can creep over here and continue attacking from the left side. You know, a little harass over here. Eisen's base isn't looking too good, although if we look at command points, yeah, 850, which is alright, but not super good for this, you know, at this point of the game. And I also build a troll cage over here. I was cash floating. I gotta be honest with you. At this point of the game, I was cash floating, so I put down barracks on the flanks, which I do pretty often in games. you know, to harass better. Okay, so I've gone for Morgul Vanguard, and he does a big push at this point from the middle, which I notice, and I send my you know, Easterling archers back to the base to defend, while all the melee units with the heroes go to harass his economy. Right, so over here he obviously has the upper hand over this side because I don't really have many troops. I'm not even sure where the Morgul Vanguard is at this point. But since he pushes with his entire army, after which he notices that his base is getting harassed from two sides, he goes back. And so that's literally all I needed to do. Just, you know, push, try to harass his economy, and his army would get pulled back. Righty, so I think I forgot to, you know, switch these guys to firebombs. I think they're much better against structures with firebombs rather than in melee mode. Righty, so I have a couple of battalions of orcs and 4 heroes over here. I got a group of troops pushing from the middle, and I also got a group of troops pushing over here. And he's once again built his armory. I'm not sure how exactly it got to level 3 so quickly, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, so he uses Freezing Rain once again and is very close to his tier 4 ability. I use Mouth of Sauron's leadership canceling ability over here. But yeah, Witch King at this point of the map, obviously, if you don't know, Mordor has a feature in which the more Nazgul you have on the map, so like I might butcher the description of this, but basically the gist of it is that the more Nazgul you have on the map, the better stats they have. So you know, they get additional stats if they have, if there's more of them on the map, essentially. And at this point, I'm pretty sure I had like all the Nazguls on this map. Maybe one of them died, I'm not sure, can't remember exactly. But yeah, so at this point, Witch King, the Nazguls are very, very buffed in terms of stats. And also I've got the Morgul Vanguard, which, you know, deals with the archers very, very successfully, obviously. Heroic units, very good. I mean, they're not like super good at taking down buildings, but they're super, super good at killing heroes, trampling archers, and stuff like that. So still extremely, extremely useful unit to have on the field. Like, they're very hard to catch. You can harass with them, you can trample with them. Very universal unit, basically, in terms of functionality. Okay, so at this point, it's not looking super good for the Isengard player. Although once again, I gotta say that it wasn't easy to achieve. You know, my situation might look good on the map right now, but this wasn't easy to achieve. Like I was trying, you know, I was controlling all over the map pretty damn hard so that I can, you know, get to this place in the game. So he went for Fellstorm, which I'm pretty sure is against buildings. Yeah, it's literally written in the description, strong versus buildings. But his economy isn't looking good at all at this point. You know, his down to 575, and all of his key buildings, or most of them, are gone except I guess this one. God, I can't. Yeah, level 3. Righty. So that's basically the only one that has been there since the beginning of the game, and I'm assuming this one too. Anyhow, so I'm expecting that he's going to push my forward. This is the thing, like he can't really push my forward, you know, because most of it. Okay, you know, because most of these units are actually like archers, you know. He's got this like Dunlanding Huskarl battalion, but most of the other units are kind of archers, ranged, so he can't really push the forward. But I upgraded in any case. And at this point, what I wanted to say before that is that I'm very bad. Like this is one of my worst sides. One of my worst things as a player is that I'm very, very bad at estimating the situation on the map. Like at this point, I very clearly have the advantage, but I wasn't actually sure about it. So yeah, so Witch King over here with Mouth of Sauron is gonna be no big deal to take down, to deal with this army, I think. Well, if I control him well, at least. But they're focusing him with the entire army, so I guess it was a wise decision there to retreat. So at this point, I also had my tier 4, I'm pretty sure. He uses his tier 4, which is a bit of a waste, I would say. I understand why he used it, because he doesn't really have an army to deal with this, you know, this group of troops I had over there. But I would say a bit of a waste, because they don't die. I had upgraded flags to them because I have my armory, and I had graded flags for my troops, but because they're elite troops at this point, so it's very important to have that. And I use my fires of Orodruin over this structure clump, which sealed the game essentially. Not much he could have done after that. He lost his clan setting, he lost his level 3 furnace, so big losses over there. And Moloch is probably going to go down over here because he doesn't have protection at this point. I only have heroes over this side of the map, and but I'm continuing to harass Black Uruks, or rather Black Uruks actually, yeah. Black Uruk Marauders are taking down his last clan steading, while Gothmog with his Morgul Orcs, legions of Morguls rather, is trying to basically finish the game, take down his lost farms. So yeah, at this point, there's not much Eisen can do. So yes, this was a good showcase of what Mordor is capable of if if Mordor sets up its economy. If it's successful in setting up its economy, then Mordor becomes a very powerful faction. I will completely forgot about these guys. Not just to recap in terms of control, definitely not the best game for me in terms of control. Although I was good at macroing, I was pretty damn bad at microing my units, in this game. So not happy with that. That definitely could have been better. But otherwise, I would say I played relatively okay, in this match. Yeah, back to the economy thing. For some reason, a lot of players in Age of the Ring say that Mordor isn't a good faction in duel matches. But I would say there's some truth. I wouldn't say that Mordor is a bad faction. Absolutely not. I would say that Mordor has a weakness in its early game, but if you manage to successfully divert your opponent's attention away from your base, even by feeding him a bit of power points, then meanwhile you set up your economy. You get your Nazgul or whatever hero you're going for. You have like 4 or 5 orc barracks set up, or I don't know, maybe you're going for the troll strategy. Lots of stuff. Mordor has lots of variety, but the key is not to ramble for too long. Essentially, my point is that the key is to set up your economy in the beginning and just spam orcs as much as you can. Well, in certain matchups. I'm not saying that this works in literally every matchup. Certainly not. In some matchups, you can't really do that. In some matchups, you gotta go troll start, with troll cage delete, troll cage, hire a troll, or rather recruit a troll, don't hire him, troll cage delete, and that's your play. In some matchups, you can do that. For example, against Woodland Realm, you can't really do that because the Faradeers will kill the troll. Anyway, the key point is that you need to set up your economy in the beginning, and once you've done that, then you're good. Then it becomes a question of if you're good with your macro. That if you're good with your macro as well, then you're golden. You're set up. You're well set for victory essentially. So yeah, a showcase of what Mordor is capable of in late game in that match. If we just remember what my base looked like in terms of like barracks and stuff. I had a bunch of barracks, which is very important in terms of remax potential, because obviously you get like tier 3, tier 4 abilities on your head, in late game, and it's very important to have, lots of barracks set up in your base so that you can quickly replenish your units, quickly build new units and go back to battle essentially. Right, so I'll end the video over there, not to have it too long. And thanks to my opponent for the game. It was a very good game. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.